Morning. Chad, we spoke last night, and we knew this was going to be a speech that was non-manual, and I was really curious about where you wanted to go with this and what your particular goals were. And you said, well, I think it'll be informative, it will be hopefully motivational, and just something that you're kind of exploring as a topic. And when you told me the topic, I thought, well, this is interesting. It actually got my brain going because it's applicable to me, and I want to talk about that as being one of the most important things that you did with this speech, which was choosing the right topic. You could have been up here talking about detailed actuarial practices, and I think you would have left us all behind because it's just not relevant to the audience. You picked a topic that applies to all of us in one way or another because we all have life events, and those life events affect us and change how we behave and change some of the patterns of things that we're trying to establish, whether it's fitness or not. And I know for you, because I've evaluated your speeches before, you get critiqued oftentimes for being too focused on one type of thing, one fitness sort of area. That being said, I've been reading the book that talks about TED speakers and how they prep and what they do and what they tell them to do. They say, talk about what you know. And this is what you did. You talk about what you know, and in this case, you're able to take that and extrapolate it out to kind of a wider message, which is generally, life events come, they impact us, they change what we do, and how do we establish healthy patterns within that sort of disruptive nature of the world. You did a good job with the storytelling, which I think was what kind of hits home and what makes it memorable for us, whether it's your personal story and training about Tough Mudder, or Josh and his kind of journey and the sort of impacts that his life events have had for him. So those are all the good things. The other thing is that you seemed incredibly comfortable. I know you planned this basically yesterday, and last night was probably when you were piecing this thing together. I couldn't tell. This was like a cakewalk for you. You seemed really polished, super comfortable. And your previous speeches have talked about how nervous you are about speaking. But in terms of your journey as a speaker, to prep with one night or one day advance and to come out and to deliver that cleanly and that easily. And it showed because also I think when you're very comfortable and you're not doing it for this rote memorization, you riff a little bit during the actual speech. And you did that and kind of made some comments here and there that showed that you were just sort of, again, comfortable just sort of speaking, and you didn't have a lot of pause words within that speech as well. In terms of how I would improve this speech, is you did a great job of sort of staging the problem and defining the problem, but it felt really unresolved to me. And I think you kind of mentioned sort of where it would go, but it sort of felt like like an unresolved note in the song. It finished, and I sort of thought, if I took this speech and I dropped it in, whether you're sitting in a high school with a leather jacket talking to a bunch of kids and motivating them, or in your fitness classes, or in somehow a business setting, how would they view and evaluate this speech and the value of what it was? And I think a lot of it would be like, you hit home with connecting with people in terms of how life events affect us and how they change us. And then you sort of hinted, we have to adjust, we have to make changes, we have to approach the problem differently than what we did the first time around. But there was no real techniques around how to do that, and I sort of felt like that it was lopsided. It was great at defining the problem, and then it sort of just short conclusion, and sort of left me wanting to know, well, what do I do with this now? I know this is going to happen to me. What do I actually do? So that would be my suggestion for improvement: is try to add some of that either through story or through additional details. But otherwise, I thought it was really effective, very clean, and you seemed incredibly comfortable. So thank you.